welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League. Madden Football is the home of the Super Bowl, and this historic matchup is brought to you by EA Sports. It's the Dolphins and the Saints, and it's coming up next.
It has been a season full of twists and turns, and it all reaches a crescendo here tonight as EA Sports so proud to welcome you to the marquee event of the NFL calendar, Super Bowl Sunday. The moment is upon us, and we've got what should be an epic one here, as it'll be the AFC champion Miami Dolphins taking on the NFC champions, the New Orleans Saints.
All right, well, welcome to the 2036 playoffs. And you're like, how the hell did we get here? The last you left us, it was a 2031 Super Bowl victory. Well, a lot has happened since then, and most of it was me trying to get Bhayshul Tuten to break 1,000 yards receiving in a season, and that didn't last too long. Maybe a season or two after that. Directly the season afterwards, he had 75 catches for like 775 yards receiving, and that was the most I could get for him. So, he turned 29, 30 after that, and started going downhill. And it's been kind of like navigating his career since then. Last year, he was still good enough to be a full-time starter, but with his age being like 32, he got hurt twice and missed like 11 games, 10 games, and it just wasn't good. But this year we figured out a way to manage him where he played the entire season. Getting Bhayshul Tuten to play all season took a little bit of finessing, and he would start a game, he would sit a game, he would start a game, he would sit a game, and I really wish we started that 2-3 years ago because it would have extended his career greatly, and I think we would have had more success in that time period. He never got hurt this season. He got hurt last year as a full-time starter. He was still good enough to be a full-time starter. Got hurt, missed 10 games, and just wasn't productive enough. Now, he wasn't as productive this season, only playing half the games, because that's more of his overall. So let's take a look at some stats here. This is probably one of our best seasons ever. We went 13-4, number one in points, passing. Obviously, we're not rushing very well. Number 4 in points against, number 1 in pass yards against, and 27th in rush yards against. This is kind of how our season looked last year, too. We had a really good team last year. Only problem being is Drew Aller was hurt, and he wasn't around after 5 games, but we did decent enough backup, but we lost in the playoffs. That's the one thing about this playbook is once you get to the playoffs, not the greatest for some reason. All right, so Drew Aller, 20 yards away from 4,900 yards passing, 49 touchdowns, the most touchdowns I've ever thrown with him, and 5 interceptions, a QB rating of 126.9. Yes, we trained deep the entire time. We had the quarterback and we had the wide receivers to do that. It seems with playbooks, I've noticed some of them, especially the passing ones, throw short, is the meta for strategizing. But once you get your running back, your wide receivers, and your quarterback to a certain level, you can train deep every week. And that is exactly what Drew Aller did. We could take, we should probably take a look at his abilities because I think they're pretty good. He's got Gambit, Anchored, Extender, Protected, Fearless, Pocket Deadeye, and Pass Lead Elite. These are all kind of like pocket quarterback type abilities in my opinion, and I think they worked very well. Now, I think he still would have thrown for almost 4,900 yards had he not had those, but maybe the touchdowns would have been different. I'm not sure, but yeah. Now, Trindon Sullivan did have a lot of touchdowns last year, and this year he did not. Bhayshul Tuten, 90 carries, 2.7 average. Not great, but it is what it is. This wide receiver we have here, who wants a lot of money, has had some really good years in a row now. 90 receptions, 1,400 yards, 10 yards away from 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns. I believe that's 2 years in a row he scored 17 touchdowns as the number one wide receiver in the slot. Possibly his replacement, we can't bring him back. Sheldon Roten, another 6'4" wide receiver, 77 catches, 900 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Oh, yeah. Tavon Grove also missed the game. Our tight end would have absolutely crushed it, even more than he did. He had 73 catches for 758 yards and 8 touchdowns, and he did miss 3 games, which, again, boosted up Miles Parham to make 57 catches for 722 yards and 6 touchdowns. And Trindon Sullivan, I think this back and forth actually helped him because he had 40 catches for 384 yards and 9 receiving touchdowns. And Bhayshul Tuten, who was the year-long receiving back and every other, game starter, took away 222 yards from him in 26 catches. So just add all that together, and you got a really good weapon there. But Trindon Sullivan also no abilities and a power back, so you can use power backs in this. It's just, to me, this playbook is more of just a stat stuffing playbook in the regular season. Until I see it win more playoff games and Super Bowls, it's not the best dynasty building team playbook, in my opinion. Jabari Hunter finally went with a bigger defensive end. He had 15 sacks. He's still a young ascending player, so he's going to get better. And then Doug McKinney, he's been a superstar ever since he got in this league. 3-year player, another guy drafted with Jabari Hunter, and bigger, faster guy, 14.5 sacks. Stephen Baldwin, an LSU product here we brought in. The speed really helps. As much speed and acceleration you can get, your D tackles really help in the Bills playbook. And then Mike Foster, he was not the starter at DN, but he was the pass rush starter. So he had 6.5 sacks. And then Javon Stoudemire, 4 interceptions, 6'3", 209. This is one of our better statistic years. Defensively, offensively, it just took a very long time for me to get the right pieces here. Messing around with small speed guys. The Dolphins had 65 sacks. Browns had 52. Raiders had 50. Steelers had 50. Everyone's getting sacks. What the hell? We were top 5 in interceptions. So that's the stats. We should go over the career of one Bhayshul Tuten to see where he's at career-wise. Rushing-wise, 8,787 yards rushing and 115 rushing touchdowns. And then receiving-wise, 614 catches for 6,220 yards, receiving 35 receiving touchdowns. That is good enough for second all-time. Another interesting thing here is Bhayshul Tuten is only two touchdowns away receiving from tying Johnny McNally for the most career receiving touchdowns by a running back. So, pretty interesting there. Won't you join me for a playoff run here? Maybe we can get another Super Bowl 5 years later. We'll see. One of the best seasons that we've had with this playbook. All right, so here we are in the division round, looking to get back to the Super Bowl 5 years later. We have the Carolina Panthers, pretty good team on offense, but not so good on defense. So hopefully we can get it done here. We are absolutely 100% healthy. Bhayshul Tuten is not starting this game. This is not his game to start. So let's advance together. We did strategize like we did all season. Stop the deep ball, throw the deep ball on offense, And let's see if it's going to pay off here in the playoffs. And it does. We get to win 35-17 over a division rival, the Panthers. Let's take a look at the stats here. Drew Aller, 324 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Trindon Sullivan, he did have 17 carries for 72 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Tavon Grove, 9 for 111. The tight end James Durbin, 7 for 58 and 2 touchdowns. Our boy Bhayshul Tuten did have 2 catches for 32 yards, and the other running back, Trindon Sullivan, LSU product. A lot of LSU products on this team. He had 3 catches for 22 yards. And defensively, Jabari Hunter had a sack and a half, along with Doug McKinney. Both great players in this playbook of the Bills. So, there you go. Let's strategize some more in the NFC Championship game against the Minnesota Vikings. See if we can back to the Super Bowl. All right, so here we are in the NFC Championship game against the Minnesota Vikings. They are a pretty good team. 10th in points, 2nd in pass yards, only 17th in rush yards, but their defense was pretty good this year. Looks like a top 10 defense, 10th in points, 9th in pass yards against, 8th in rush yards against. But look, you gotta be better than that to stop this prolific offense right now. So let's advance together and see if we are going back to the Super Bowl. And we are taking on the Miami Dolphins. That's a weird franchise we played against, I think, in the playoffs. But here, let's take a look at Drew Aller. 278 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and an interception. So throwing a little too many interceptions. Trindon was still the starter. 18 carries for 72 yards, 4.0 yards a carry. Tavon Grove had 6 for 82 and 2. The tight end James Durbin had 7 for 58 and a touchdown. Miles Parham got in there for 7 for 56 and a touchdown. Bhayshul Tuten had 3 catches for 22 yards. Those are 22 very important yards in my opinion. Stephen Baldwin had a sack, and Doug McKinney and Juan Starks, the rookie, 6'6", 296 DN. They combined for a half a sack each and no interception. So we lost the turnover battle, but we still won by 6 points. So we got the Dolphins on tap in the Super Bowl. We'll do that together. All right, so we're taking on the Dolphins in the Super Bowl, and they have a man who recorded 30.5 sacks this season. And why did he record 30.5 sacks this season? Well, the Miami Dolphins are in both Tennessee playbooks, and that is a 3-4 playbook with a 4-3 defensive end, the classic 6'5", 275-pound DN, and he's also a superstar with momentum shift, recuperation, extra credit, and Ripper. I don't know, is Ripper the best? It sure shows up a lot. So if I have time for another rebuild before the draft, I will definitely be using a 3-4 playbook with 4-3 defensive ends to see how good it is. But that is one of the reasons why the Miami Dolphins are in the Super Bowl. They have a great defensive end. They actually have 2 of those guys, but the other DN only has 7 sacks. 3rd in points, 7th in pass yards, 18th in rush, 12th in points against, 23rd in pass yards against, and 3rd in rush yards against. So even with having those, lighter defensive ends, they were still able to stop the run. So that is going to be a bit of a challenge for us. And we also have the MVP jinx. Drew Aller gets the MVP. I believe that is his first MVP. We lost out to Lewis Fox of the Patriots for Coach of the Year. Drew Aller, Offensive Player of the Year. He also had 4 rushing touchdowns, 4 yards rushing, something like that. Antonio Hannon, Defensive Player of the Year in the NFC. Clint Easley of the 49ers, Offensive Rookie. Defensive Rookie, Michael Kinley, whoever that is. Drew Aller, Best QB. Best Running Back, Kenya Fitzsimmons. Antonio Williams, Best Wide Receiver. He's been really good. I can't remember who you know from any of this rebuild, because I did videos for the last 4 seasons, 5 seasons, and I never released him because nothing really happened of note. Tavon Grove just loses out to him as best wide receiver. Oh, Jerry Kennedy, best offensive lineman for the Saints. He should go up in development, I hope. Antonio Hannon, best defensive line for the Commanders. Max Dorn, best defensive back, along with Mark Q. Hearns. Okay. Best linebackers. Travis Hunter, best DB for the Eagles. He moved on to the Eagles in free agency. And Jack Hausler is the best kicker for the Vikings. All right, let's get into this together and see if we can get our second Super Bowl in this rebuild. It's only taken forever. All right, so we pick up here with 7:53 left in the first quarter, a 0-0 game. We're driving here, and we get the 7-0 lead with 4:29 left in the game. They come back, get 3 points. It's 7-3 into the second quarter. They get another field goal. We're up a point. Back and forth with the ball towards the end of the second quarter. First half ends with us taking a 14-16 lead. We have the ball to open up the third, and we take a 21-6. They get an instant score, 21-13, 28-13 with 12:05 left in the game. We have the ball. We take a field goal for a 31-13 lead.
So this one,
and that's all she wrote.
For New Orleans, and we talk so much about the turnover battle, determining who wins, who loses. This game, no exception. Air-free football, no turnovers at all, and they win it.
So this is one you don't have to convince your team that what you're saying is accurate. And you know what I'm talking about. Head coach always stands up in front of the team and says, guys, if we do this, this, and this, we'll win. And usually they say if we win the turnover battle, we'll win. Well, here's the proof right there. Win the turnover battle, go on to victory. Now the guys believe. You move on to the next lesson where you have to convince them. This one is now planted.
Commissioner Goodell on the podium going to present the Lombardi Trophy to the New Orleans Saints. On top of the world, they are your Super Bowl champions.
All right, so we get the win here. Looking at the stats, Drew Aller, 301 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns. Trindon Sullivan had 18 carries for 43 yards and a rushing touchdown. Tavon Grove, 7 for 151 and 2. Sheldon Roten, 7 for 92 and a touchdown. So the big wide receivers get it done. And Cecil Goddard, our backup tight end, getting 5 for 45. What happened to our starter? I guess he got hurt. Bhayshul Tuten did have 2 for 13 in the game. Mike Foster had a sack, and we had 2 interceptions. We won the turnover battle, and that's what you love to see. Oh, Bhayshul Tuten getting 2 catches. 11-year pro running back. Still hanging on. Now a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And as we look at the 2036 season recap, Drew Aller was the MVP of the Super Bowl. He got the sweep, baby. Swept the MVP of the league and of the Super Bowl. Heck of a year for him. New Orleans Saints are now 3-time Super Bowl champions, twice in this rebuild.